Hello everybody, my name is Walter and this is episode 14 of my Redstone Commands Series. In this episode I want to cover a rather new command, which is the place command. As usual, let's start with what the command is actually about. So the place command is used to place various types of structures into the world using commands. Depending on the mode, you can place features and structures, which are things usually generated during word generation, like trees, geodes, ore distribution, villages, cities, and so on. Templates, which are structures that can be saved and loaded using the structure block. And Jigsaw, which is closely related to what the Jigsaw block is about, and used to put together randomized structures that can get quite big. Let's start with placing features. Now, features are small, standalone structures that can be placed using the place feature command. And good examples are the various types of trees, ore distribution, geodes, and so on. This command, or this mode of the command, will check whether the feature is actually allowed to be placed in the current position. So something that only belongs in the overworld can't be placed in the nether, or something from the nether can't be placed into the end, or something that needs to be placed in a solid surrounding can be placed into air, as just a few examples. The syntax for the command is pretty straightforward. We have the name and the mode, place feature. Then you have to specify the name of the feature. And then optionally, you give it the XYZ of a position. This is the definition of the reference point where the generation of the feature starts from. For trees, for example, this is the lowest trunk block. It's not the lowest block because below that one, it still generates a dot block, but it's the lowest trunk block. For other features, it may be another block. So this varies depending on the feature you use. If you want a list of available features, you can use the autocomplete function. So just start with place and then feature. And then you already have a scrollable list of all the features that are available in the game. And well, you can select one and then try to place it. If it's applicable, you can place it. Now for two examples. The first example is placing a birch tree in the middle of this platform here. And the coordinates I'm giving it are the air block right above the middle of the platform. So let's summon this in. And you see I got a rather short birch tree actually. And also the dirt block below it. So as you can see there. If I were to try the command a second time, I would get a different tree. So this is truly randomized and not depending on the position or seed of the world like the normal word generation would be about. So here you always get a different tree. So this makes this quite useful if you want to randomize your adventure map. Second example, an amethyst geode, this time at my current position since I'm not defining them. And you can see since I'm not standing in stone or entombed in stone, I can't place it at the current position. Next up, we have placing structures. So structures are bigger than features and usually also put together out of smaller components like the mansion or villages, although there are exceptions like the igloo. The structures are also generally locatable using the locate command. So you will find quite a bit of overlap between the structures you can place using the place structure and the structures you can locate using the locate functionality. The command again will check if you are actually allowed to place the structure in the current position. So no placing an entity in the nether. The syntax is similar to before. You name and mode, place structure. Then you have to specify which structure. And then you specify a triplet of coordinates again. So XYZ of coordinates. If you don't specify that, it will default to your current position. Now, two things to note here. Let's start with the list of structures. If you want a quick list, just use the autocomplete function. So place structure this time, and then you get a list of the available structures. And you can see the list is somewhat lengthy, but quite a bit shorter than the list of features. Second, the position you're defining is more or less just telling the game in what chunk the structure is to be generated. The game will automatically determine the height of the structure, basically snap to the ground. It will determine the position of the structure, starting in the northwest corner. And it will automatically determine the orientation, which appears to be somewhat random. So let's start with an example. This here is summoned in a swamp hut or witch hut in a chunk that is roughly over there. And if I do that, you can see it was spawned on top of this pre-prepared platform here. Now the height, as I said, is determined so that it snaps to the ground. And the X and Z coordinates are basically so that it's snug in the corner here, which is the northwest corner, so the corner of the lowest coordinates. And as you can see down there, I did the command another 3 times beforehand, and it's always the northwest corner. Although the height appears to have some additional algorithms in the background. So those 2 here snap to the building limit at the bottom, since there was no platform to be snapped to. This here snapped obviously to the pre-prepared platform. And this here decided to average somewhere between the bottom and this platform up here, since this up here is not big enough for the spawning. So yeah, there appears to be some kind of logic beyond just stepping to the ground. But anyway, this is quite useful if you need a quick structure, although they appear to always look the same depending on the chunk. So this appears to use the seed of the game again, or the save game for the randomizer. Second example, as I said, no placing an entity in the overworld. Thirdly, placing templates. So as I said, you can save templates using a structure block in the save mode, and you can load them using the structure block in the load mode. Until this command was introduced, the only way to load them in using data packs was to place a structure block with the correct inputs, power that structure block, and then remove the entire thing again, after waiting for a moment so that it could actually load in everything. Now you can do all of those 3 to even more steps in just a single command. So this is where I will like to use the place command the most. Anyway, I went into great detail of how the structure block works in episode 3, so I won't do this again in here. Anyway, let's talk about the syntax of the command. So this more or less mirrors how a structure block user interface looks like, at least in the load mode. So we start with name and mode, place template. Then you have to specify what template. The name of the template you will quickly find, at least for the ones you saved yourself. If you go into your save game, in the subfolder generated, subfolder Minecraft, subfolder structures, and in there you will find .nbt files named after the structure. If you're looking in the data pack, the path is slightly different, and there are also some templates that come with the game. So yeah, let's do this now. If you look in the autocomplete function, you can see, okay, there are a lot of predefined structures. And you can see those are actually the parts that are used to generate the bigger structures. So yeah, you can see there is quite a bit of an overlap between the different functionalities. Anyway, once you have defined what template you want to load in, you define, or you can define, a position. And this time you define exactly the lower northwest corner of the cuboid area you're placing, or you're replacing with the whatever is in the template. The size of the cuboid area is defined by the template itself, but you define the lower northwest corner exactly. So this is the mode of this command where you have the most control. After that, you can define if you want to rotate the build by 0, plus minus 90, or 180 degrees. Or you can define if you want to mirror it, front to back, left to right. After that, you can also define if you want to degrade your structure. So integrity 0 means no blocks are placed. Integrity 1 means all of the blocks of the template are placed. And integrity 50% or 0.5 means, well, half of the blocks are placed and the rest is left as is. Seed is the starting point for the number generator. If it's 0, as far as I can tell, the randomizer is truly random. If it's another number, you will always get the same result for the same template. So if you want a specific, if you found a specific degradation pattern and you want to repeat that one, you would have to use the same integrity and seed as before. Anyway, for this example here, I've saved a template testing cube, which is just this cube over there, saved as a template with a structure block in save mode. And I'm summoning it in or placing it right on top of this platform in front of me where we have currently our tree. And if I do it, you can see now I have my tree embedded in a ruined cube. So that's basically what you can do with this command here. And the last mode is placing jigsaws. Now, jigsaw are used to put together structures in somewhat randomized manner. So I will put a link in the description for a rather good explanation, I think, about how the Jigsaw block works. Unfortunately, there is very little official documentation on how the Jigsaw block or how the place Jigsaw really works. So I was not able to find much information, and I won't be able to go too much into detail. I put the links for what I found in the description, but maybe in the future there will be more information about this. Anyway, let's talk about the command. So the syntax is again name and mode, place jigsaw. Then you specify how the structure you want to place needs to be generated. Basically is referencing a list of, well, structures that can be randomly selected for the generation. Target has something to do with how the generation starts, as far as I can tell. And max depth tells the generator or the command how far the generation should go. This is a number between 1 and 7, including. 1 means you have your starting point or starting module and you go one step to the outside. So you have some jigsaw blocks included in your starting module. And each of those has a certain chance to generate another module on its outside. And if you have a max depth of at least 2, the jigsaw blocks in the now snapped onto the outside modules also can potentially generate another module on their outside, and so on. This is like a spider web where you start in the middle, and max depth basically gives you the radius of the spider web. So this is somewhat how you could describe it. Position is again optional and works apparently similar to for placing structures. So you define essentially a chunk and it will somewhat start in the northwest corner and snap to the ground. This is as far as I could tell. But as I said, the documentation concerning this functionality is pretty poor, at least at this point in time. And with that, we have reached the end of this episode about the place command. I hope you enjoyed this little episode and, well, see ya.